There's something almost radical about ignoring things. In a world that demands our attention every single second, that pulls at us from 1,000 different directions, that manufactures urgency out of thin air, and turns every notification into a pseudo-emergency, the simple act of ignoring feels like an act of rebellion. Yet it's not rebellious in the flashy, confrontational sense. It's quiet, it's deliberate, and it might be one of the most underrated superpowers you can develop. We live in an age of unprecedented stimulus. Our phones buzz with messages. Our emails pile up faster than we can read them. Social media platforms have engineered algorithms specifically designed to hijack our attention. Every news cycle brings fresh outrage to parse. Every conversation offers drama to engage with, and every moment of potential boredom is immediately filled with infinite content. We've been trained, conditioned, almost programmed to respond to every stimulus as if our survival depends on it. But here's the thing nobody really talks about. Most of what's trying to grab your attention doesn't deserve it, not even close. The power of ignoring isn't about being rude or dismissive. It's not about pretending the world doesn't exist or adopting some nihilistic attitude where nothing matters. Instead, it's about recognizing that your attention is genuinely precious, perhaps the most precious resource you have, and that you have the right to be selective about where it goes. It's about understanding that every moment you spend on something is a moment you're not spending on something else, and that trade-off matters enormously. Let me ask you something. How much of your daily mental energy goes toward things you don't control? How much time do you spend thinking about what other people think? Worrying about opinions that don't align with yours, or engaging with controversies that have nothing to do with your life? How many hours have you lost to arguments online, to drama in comment sections, to the compulsive need to respond or correct or defend? If you're honest, the answer is probably more than I'd like to admit. The world is genuinely full of things deserving of attention. There are real problems. There are people you care about who need you. There are goals you want to achieve, skills you want to develop, relationships you want to nurture. But your capacity for attention is finite. You can't be everywhere at once. You can't care deeply about everything. And the moment you accept this, really accept it, you gain access to something transformative. The freedom to choose. Ignoring is a choice, and that choice is powerful. To understand why ignoring is so important, we need to talk about what we're ignoring. We're ignoring an endless stream of content designed specifically to capture and hold our attention. This isn't an accident or a side effect. It's the entire business model. Entire industries exist to compete for your focus, and they've become incredibly sophisticated at it. Social media companies employ teams of engineers and psychologists whose job is literally to make their platforms more addictive. Every feature is tested, optimized, and refined to keep you scrolling. The color of a button, the timing of a notification, the way likes are displayed, all of it has been carefully considered to maximize engagement. And engagement in this context means your attention. News networks profit from controversy and outrage. Conflict generates clicks. Nuance doesn't. So we get a steady stream of the most inflammatory takes, the most divisive stories, the most emotionally triggering content. Not because they're the most important things happening, but because they're the most profitable to broadcast. Even our relationships have been disrupted by this attention economy. Text messages, social media interactions, online arguments, they create an endless chain of low-stakes stimulation that can feel urgent even when it's genuinely not important. You might receive a message from a friend, or a passive-aggressive comment from an acquaintance, and suddenly your emotional state is affected. You feel compelled to respond immediately, to clarify your position, to defend yourself, or to engage in the drama. None of this is inherently evil. The people creating these systems aren't cartoon villains. They're working within a system that rewards engagement and profits from attention. And we, as users, have been trained so thoroughly by these systems that we often don't even notice the training happening. We feel the pull to check our phones not as something external, but as our own curiosity, our own need to stay connected. But here's what's crucial. Recognizing this system for what it is gives you the ability to opt out. Not completely. We still need to live in the world and engage with it, but selectively. You can decide that certain things simply don't deserve your attention. Before we talk about ignoring things, we need to talk about what it costs to not ignore them. Attention is a finite resource. You have a certain amount of mental energy each day. Some of it is consumed by basic biological functions, eating, sleeping, moving your body. Some of it goes to work, to responsibilities, to the practical business of living. But you have a remaining pool of discretionary attention. And every single thing you put your focus on comes out of that pool. When you've spent that pool on things that don't matter, there's nothing left for things that do. Think about what happened to you the last time you got pulled into an online argument. Maybe someone said something ignorant on a social media post. Maybe a stranger on the internet disagreed with something you believe in. And maybe, despite your better judgment, you found yourself crafting a response. You wrote it out. You deleted it. You rewrote it. You thought about it while you were supposed to be working. You woke up at night thinking about the perfect comeback you should have used. What did that cost you? Hours of your day, certainly, but more than that, it cost you mental peace. It disrupted your focus. It kept your nervous system activated in a way that wasn't productive. And what did you gain? Nothing. The person you were arguing with didn't change their mind. Your argument didn't move the needle on anything important. You simply spent your precious attention on a conflict that didn't matter and couldn't be won. Now multiply that across a day, a week, a month, a year. Imagine if you systematically removed every interaction like that from your life. Imagine if you stopped engaging with trolls, stopped arguing with people on the internet, stopped caring deeply about the opinions of people who don't affect your life. What would you have instead? You'd have time. You'd have mental energy. You'd have the capacity to think deeply about things that matter. You'd be able to focus on your work, your relationships, your goals, without constantly being pulled sideways by drama and conflict. This isn't about becoming apathetic or disconnected. It's about being ruthlessly efficient with your attention. It's about recognizing that you're not obligated to engage with everything presented to you, what ignoring actually looks like. Here's where people often misunderstand what we're talking about. Ignoring doesn't mean burying your head in the sand. It doesn't mean pretending bad things don't exist or being indifferent to genuine problems in the world. And it certainly doesn't mean ignoring the people in your life who matter. Real ignoring is actually quite sophisticated. It's about being intentional with your attention. It's about pausing before you react and asking yourself, does this deserve my engagement? Will responding to this move my life in a positive direction? Is this something I can control or influence, or am I just volunteering for stress? Let me give you some practical examples. You see a controversial headline on social media. Your first instinct is to read the comments, to see what people are saying, maybe to add your own perspective. But you pause. You ask yourself, will reading these comments make me smarter or happier? Will they change anything in the world? Is this a situation where my input matters? And the honest answer is usually no, so you ignore it. You keep scrolling. You move on. This isn't apathy. It's clarity about where your attention is worth spending. Someone makes a cutting remark about you or your work. Your instinct is to respond, to clarify, to defend your position. But you wait. You sit with it for a while. You ask yourself, is this person important to my life? Will our relationship improve if I defend myself? Am I actually misunderstood, or am I just uncomfortable with criticism? Sometimes the answer will be yes, this is a conversation worth having. But often the answer is no. The comment came from someone whose opinion shouldn't matter to you, or it's just someone letting their own frustrations out, or it's simply not worth your energy. In those cases, you let it go. You don't respond, you ignore it. And that silence, that refusal to engage, often has more power than any comeback could have. You feel the pull to check your phone constantly, but you ignore it. You set boundaries around when and how you use it. You turn off notifications. You create friction between yourself and the streams of content designed to hijack your attention. Is this difficult? Yes, at first. We're genuinely addicted to the stimulation. But ignoring that pull, consciously, repeatedly, is how you reclaim agency over your own attention. A loved one is going through something difficult and they reach out to you. You don't ignore this. This is precisely the kind of thing that deserves your attention. The distinction is clear. Relationships that matter, challenges that affect your life, work that has meaning, these get your focus. Everything else is negotiable. The competitive advantage of ignoring. Here's something that really matters. The ability to ignore effectively has become a competitive advantage. In an economy where everyone is distracted, where everyone is fractured across 1,000 different concerns and inputs, the person who can maintain focus becomes rare. The person who isn't responding to every email within minutes, who isn't caught up in every trend and controversy, who can actually concentrate on deep work, that person stands out. They produce better results. They think more clearly. They make better decisions because they're not operating in a constant state of low-level reactivity. This applies to creative work, intellectual work, strategic work, essentially any kind of work that requires thinking. The research on this is pretty clear. Deep focus produces better results than constant context switching. Your brain actually needs sustained attention to do meaningful work. And that brain is impossible to find in our current environment unless you're intentionally protecting it. But it goes beyond work. In relationships, the ability to ignore distractions means you can be fully present with people. You can listen without your mind being half elsewhere. You can have actual conversations instead of parallel performances, where everyone is checking their phones. This creates stronger relationships, more meaningful connections, more genuine intimacy. In personal development, ignoring the noise means you can focus on what actually matters for your growth. You don't get pulled sideways by every new trend, every new optimization hack, every new guru claiming to have the secret. Instead, you can focus on the fundamentals. You can develop real skills. You can make real progress. And at a deeper level, ignoring gives you freedom. It frees you from the constant weight of caring about things outside your control. It frees you from the need to have an opinion about everything. It frees you from the treadmill of consumption and reaction. And that freedom, that mental space, is genuinely valuable. There's another form of ignoring that's equally important but often overlooked: ignoring the critical voice inside your own head. Most of us have an internal critic. It's the voice that tells you you're not good enough, that you're making mistakes, that people are judging you, that you'll never be successful, that whatever you're attempting will probably fail. This voice is often framed as helpful, like it's trying to keep you safe or push you to do better. But in reality, it's usually just creating anxiety and paralysis. Here's the tricky part. You can't exactly silence this voice. It's part of how your brain works. But you can ignore it. You can practice recognizing when it speaks and then deliberately not engaging with it. You can notice the thought without believing it, without acting on it, without letting it affect your behavior. This is different from positive thinking or affirmations. It's not about replacing negative thoughts with positive ones. It's about developing the capacity to observe thoughts without being controlled by them. It's about recognizing that a thought is not a fact and that you don't have to obey every impulse your brain produces. When you're about to do something that matters, give a presentation, start a project, reach out to someone, your inner critic might produce a whole stream of objections. You're not ready. You'll embarrass yourself. This is a bad idea. But you can recognize this as just noise, as the default output of an anxious brain, and you can proceed anyway. You can ignore the critic and do the thing. This requires practice. The critic doesn't go away, but over time you can reduce the power it has over you. And this might be one of the most transformative forms of ignoring you can develop, because it directly affects your ability to take action in your life. There's a concept called strategic indifference that's worth exploring. It's the practice of deliberately cultivating indifference toward things that don't matter while maintaining genuine engagement with things that do. This is different from apathy, which is a kind of resigned disengagement from everything. Strategic indifference is active. You're making a deliberate choice to care less about something, not because you've given up, but because you've decided it's not worth your emotional energy. Some examples: you might be strategically indifferent toward what people you don't respect think about you. You might be strategically indifferent toward being the coolest, most well-liked person in a social setting. You might be strategically indifferent toward winning an argument with someone who isn't arguing in good faith. You might be strategically indifferent toward whether a piece of content you create gets attention or goes unnoticed. This indifference isn't passive. It's supported by a clear set of values. You're indifferent toward these things, specifically because you've decided they're not aligned with what actually matters. And that clarity makes the indifference sustainable. The alternative is to care about everything equally, or to let the world's priorities become your priorities, or to let other people's standards become your standards. That's exhausting. That's also how you end up living a life that doesn't actually belong to you. Strategic indifference is liberating because it's selective. You're not indifferent toward your work if work matters to you. You're not indifferent toward your relationships. You're indifferent toward things you've genuinely identified as irrelevant. And that clarity makes all the difference. Here's a counterintuitive idea. Sometimes, ignoring someone is actually the most respectful thing you can do. If someone is trying to get a rise out of you, trying to provoke you, trying to pull you into drama, the most dignified response might be to ignore them completely. Not to engage, not to defend yourself, not to explain, but to simply decline the invitation. This doesn't mean you're running away or that you're afraid. It means you've made a judgment about what's worth your time and who's worth engaging with. And you've decided to act on that judgment. There's also a kind of respect in ignoring bad advice or criticism that isn't constructive. If someone is criticizing your work or your choices without offering anything useful, without having any real expertise, Without actually understanding your situation, you can ignore them. You don't have to engage with every criticism as if it's potentially valid. You can evaluate the source and the quality of the input and decide whether it's worth taking seriously. And there's a respect in ignoring pressure from others to become something you're not, or to care about things you don't. If people want you to be more social, or more ambitious, or more fashionable, or more anything that doesn't align with who you actually are, you can ignore that. You can make your own choices about how you want to be. Real respect, both for others and for yourself, sometimes means declining to engage. It means having clear boundaries about what you will and won't participate in. It means not pretending to care about things you don't care about. Not pretending to be someone you're not. Not engaging in relationships or situations that aren't authentic. Ignoring is closely related to saying no, and saying no is one of the most underutilized powers people have. Most of us are trained to be agreeable. We want to be helpful. We want to be liked, so we say yes to things we don't want to do. We commit to obligations that drain us. We give our time and energy to people and projects that don't actually matter to us. And then we wonder why we're exhausted and resentful. Here's the thing. Every yes to something you don't want is a no to something you do. When you say yes to a meeting that's not important, you're saying no to focused work on your actual priorities. When you say yes to hanging out with people you don't particularly enjoy, you're saying no to time with people you love or time alone to recharge. When you say yes to obligations that aren't aligned with your values, you're saying no to a life that actually reflects those values. Ignoring requests, declining opportunities, saying no. These are not failures of courtesy. They're expressions of clarity about what matters, and they're necessary if you want to actually have a life that's yours rather than a life that's been constructed by others' expectations and requests. The people who seem most alive, most present, most capable, they tend to be the ones who have said no to a lot of things. They've declined most of the opportunities. They've stepped back from most of the conversations. They've created space in their lives through strategic declining and ignoring. And in that space, they're able to do real work, build real relationships, pursue real meaning. One more thing worth addressing: ignoring the impossible standard. There's this idea that's been cultivated by capitalism, by social media, by productivity culture, that if you're not constantly optimizing, constantly improving, constantly pursuing more and better, then you're failing. You should have a six-pack abs and also be an amazing parent and also be crushing it at work and also be well-read and also have a thriving social life and also be pursuing a side hustle and also be meditation and also be learning a new language. It's impossible. No person can do all of these things at the same time. But the standard persists, and most of us feel guilty for not meeting it. We feel like we're failing because we're not doing everything. Here's where ignoring comes in. You can ignore this standard. You can look at the full list of shoulds and decide which ones actually matter to you and which ones you're going to let go of. You can decide that for this season of your life, you're going to focus on your work and your family, and you're going to let fitness take a backseat, or you're going to focus on your health, and you're going to let your career rest for a moment, or you're going to prioritize learning, and you're going to accept that your house is going to be messier than you'd like. You can't do everything. Acknowledging this is the beginning of sanity. And ignoring the impossible standard, the standard that demands you do everything, is how you give yourself permission to actually focus on what matters to you, creating a life of focus. So how do you actually implement this? How do you develop the ability to ignore effectively? Start by getting clear on your values and your priorities. What actually matters to you? What do you genuinely care about? Not what you think you should care about. Not what people expect you to care about, but what you actually care about. Write this down. Get specific. This becomes your filtering system. Then systematically reduce your inputs. Unfollow accounts that don't serve you. Unsubscribe from email lists. Mute notifications. Delete apps. Create friction between yourself and the streams of content and communication designed to hijack your attention. You don't have to do this dramatically, just gradually. But the goal is to reduce the amount of stuff that's competing for your attention. Next, practice ignoring in small ways. When you feel the pull to check your phone, ignore it for 5 minutes. When someone makes a comment designed to provoke you, don't respond. When you see a trend or a controversy, let yourself be indifferent. These small practices build your ability to maintain control over your own attention. Set clear boundaries with other people. Let them know through your actions and sometimes through your words what you will and won't engage with. This might be as simple as not responding to texts immediately, or declining certain invitations, or telling people that you don't want to talk about certain topics. Real relationships can handle boundaries. In fact, they require them. Build time into your schedule where you're genuinely unavailable. No phone, no email, no digital connection. Time where you're fully focused on one thing or fully resting. This isn't selfish. It's necessary. It's how you maintain the capacity to actually do meaningful work and be present in your relationships. And finally, practice observing your own mind. Notice when you're about to react. Notice when something is pulling at your emotions. Notice when you're compelled to engage. Just the act of noticing creates space between the impulse and your response. And in that space, you get to choose. You get to decide whether this deserves your attention or whether you're going to ignore it. The deeper truth. There's something deeper underneath all of this. Ignoring effectively isn't really about filtering content or managing attention, though it certainly involves those things. It's about reclaiming your agency. It's about recognizing that you have the right to make decisions about your own life, your own time, your own attention. It's about refusing to be passively shaped by external forces. We're living in a time when our attention is genuinely under siege. There are systems, sophisticated, expensive systems, designed to capture it. There are people and institutions that profit from our distraction. There's a culture that's trained us to be constantly responsive, constantly available, constantly engaged. And most of us have accepted this as just how things are. We feel helpless against it. We feel like the pull is too strong to resist. But it's not. The power has always been ours. We just have to remember that we have it, and then we have to practice using it. Every time you ignore something that's trying to grab your attention, you're reclaiming a small piece of your life. Every time you say no to an obligation that doesn't matter, you're creating space for something that does. Every time you refuse to engage with drama or conflict that has nothing to do with you, you're protecting your peace. These small acts of ignoring, accumulated over time, create a life that's genuinely yours rather than a life that's been constructed by external demands and expectations. This is the real power of ignoring. It's not about being harsh or dismissive. It's not about not caring. It's about caring so much about what actually matters that you're willing to ignore everything else. It's about being selective with the most precious resource you have, your attention, and using it deliberately, intentionally, and aligned with what you actually value. In a world designed to distract us, the ability to ignore is revolutionary. It's how you protect your focus. It's how you do meaningful work. It's how you build real relationships. It's how you become the person you actually want to be. It's how you live a life that's yours. And that's the true power of ignoring. Subscribe to this channel, not because you are told to, but because you know somewhere in your chest that this conversation is one you need to keep having. Love is not simple. Marriage is not simple. But understanding, real, honest, courageous understanding makes both of them possible. This channel is committed to that understanding every single week. Join this community. Subscribe right now and share this with someone who needs to hear that what they are feeling is real, that they are not alone, and that it is never too late to start loving better.